All right, hey, I'm out in the woods and I wanted to do a little demonstration of litter sifting for you all. So I hope you find this interesting. All right, to do this, I've got a few things laid out here in front of me. So this is the litter sifter. It's a couple of rings, and inside the lower ring there's a hardware cloth, about 8 millimeters square. And then there's a bag underneath it that's tied off at the bottom. So the purpose of this is to separate all the big coarse litter from the fine litter. And the fine litter is where most of the bugs are going to be. So that will separate all that for us. I've also got a little shovel, which is helpful for scraping along the ground. I've got a pair of gloves, nice to protect your hands when it's when you're getting down into the dirt. And then some kind of a bag to put all the litter in. This one's got a letter on it, and I like to have them lettered or numbered so I can identify each sample. You want to make sure that you know exactly where each sample came from when you get it. So, I'm going to put my gloves on. And the first thing that you need to do is find a great place to sift litter. And the place that I've found here is kind of in a little drainage. Hopefully you can see that. It's a low spot. It's at the base of a large tree. And what that does, it kind of concentrates the litter. It gives it a place to accumulate and start to rot. So you want that decay. Litter with a lot of fungus in it is going to have a lot of more interesting creatures. Near piles of dead wood, places like that, places with lots of fungal growth can be good. And you want to start by getting all the big dry stuff out of the way. Most of that won't have many critters in it. So we'll get down to where it's a little bit wetter, there's a little bit more life, and use the shovel to scrape right down to the soil surface. So you want to get all the litter, especially where it's in the process of turning into soil. You scrape that into the sifter. You don't want to put too much in there at a time so that you get a good sift. And then you shake it for a while. And a while is like 30 seconds or so. And that should be enough to get all the small stuff through. Dump that back out where you got it. And then move to your next spot. All right, and basically you want to do that until you got a nice ball of litter at the bottom of the sifter. And I go for maybe between a half gallon and a gallon of litter, and then we'll put that in the bag. Okay, so I've sifted my sample. I moved it into the litter bag, and these bags are made of nylon. Another good material to use is like pillowcase material. If you can find cheap pillowcases in a thrift store or something like that, they're perfect to use. And then you want to take pretty good care of this. You don't want to let it sit in the sun or let it get too hot. Because that will kill a lot of the things that are in it. If you're going to stop at another field site and take additional samples, then you want to take this probably out of the car, put it in the shade somewhere, maybe under the car or near some trees somewhere. But make sure it doesn't get too hot. It can dry out a little bit. That won't be too big a deal, but you want to keep a lot of the moisture in there. And if you do that, then things can live in these bags for several days. You don't need to get right back in the lab and process them immediately. So you can take several samples and then get back to the lab and process them the next day. That's fine. So I hope that you do that. And next I'll go inside and show you how I set these up on the Berlese funnels. Okay, so now here we are at the Berlese farm, and you can see the funnels in front of me. All Berlese funnels they basically operate the same way, although there's a lot of different designs. These are the buckets that you get from BioQuip, and I have to cut the hole in the front. They don't come with that, but that's really handy. Underneath the funnel itself, there's a dry collecting jar so that when we first put the litter in there, everything that's loose will fall through and not get into the final sample. It really helps to keep that final sample clean. So the alcohol that the specimens are going to go in is here and ready, and we're going to go ahead and pour some litter onto the screen. You can see that the screens are covered with a cheesecloth, and again, that really helps to keep the sample clean. So the hardware cloth in there is like 1/4 inch mesh, but having that layer of cheesecloth in there really helps keep dirt and little debris out. It's just so much nicer dealing with a sample that's clean and dirt-free at the end. So we're going to pour the litter onto the funnel, and you can see it's all pretty fine. I really don't like to put more than like 1.5 inches or so depth in there, because otherwise it takes a long time for it to dry. So we spread that out nice and even, and sometimes a lot of people like to put a hole in the middle, and the theory is that things walking around will find that easily and go straight through. And of course what we want is for them to drop down through there. So let's do that with both samples. Put our little hole in the middle, and then you want to just tap it a few times really nicely so that anything that is loose and going to fall through will do that now. All right, and then we can swap out the alcohol, make sure that's centered under there. Put that back on there just in case anything ran through while we weren't watching. Take the lid, turn it on, and put it on very gently so we don't knock more junk into there.
More junk into there. And again. Alright, put the alcohol in, and let it go. So,
with that much litter, I would probably leave those going for 8 to 10 hours. I'll probably leave them, let's see, it's 4:30 p.m. now. I'll probably leave these until the morning, and then we'll take a look and see what comes through. And I'm sure there will be interesting stuff. All right. All right, here's what our sample looks like after it comes out of the Berlese funnel. And while I know most of what you can see is just centipedes and millipedes, there's a lot of good little hexapods in there. I'm going to try to put it under the scope and see if we can pick out a few things, but I can tell you that I already had a quick look at it, and just in this small sample from Clemson Forest, we've got Protura, Dipleura, several families of Collembola, and who knows what else. Let's see. Alright, so just after a few minutes of sorting, I've pulled out a lot of the creatures that were in that sample. I don't really know how well you can see this through the microscope eyepiece, but there are at least 5 families of springtails, Protura, Dipleura. On the right there you can see one of the gepigids with the forceps-like cerci. We've got at least 4 families of beetles, rove beetles, several different species of weevils. There are Thyssanoptera, or thrips. There are ants, one other small parasitic wasp, and what other things did I see in there? Oh, a couple different families of flies. So there's just tons of stuff. That's probably 15 families right there, and 5 orders for your collection from just a small litter sample. So go out, do it, good luck.